Fern by Dylan Thomas, 1914 to 1953. Now, as I was young and easy under the apple boughs, about the lilting house, and happy as the grass was green, the night above the dingle starry, time let me hail and climb, golden in the heydays of his eyes, and honoured among wagons. I was prince of the apple towns, and once below a time I lordly had the trees and leaves trail with daisies and barley down the rivers of the windfall light. And as I was green and carefree, famous among the barns, about the happy yard, and singing as the farm was home, in the sun that is young only once, time let me play and be golden in the mercy of his means, and green and golden I was huntsman and herdsman. The calves sang to my horn, the foxes on the hills barked clear and cold, and the Sabbath rang slowly in the pebbles of the holy streams. All the sun long it was running, it was lovely, the hay fields high as the house, the tunes from the chimneys, it was air, and playing lovely and watery, and fire green as grass, and nightly under the simple stars, as I rode to sleep, the owls were bearing the farm away. All the moon long I heard, blessed among the stables, the nightjars flying with the ricks, and the horses flashing into the dark. And then to awake, and the farm like a wanderer white, with the dew come back, the cock on his shoulder, it was all shining, it was Adam and maiden. The sky gathered again, and the sun grew round that very day. So it must have been after the birth of the simple light, in the first spinning place, the spellbound horses walking warm out of the whinnying green stable onto the fields of praise. And honoured among foxes and pheasants by the gay house, under the new-made clouds, and happy as the heart was long. In the sun borne over and over, I ran my heedless ways. My wishes raced through the house-high hay, and nothing I cared. At my sky-blue trades, at that time allows, in all his tuneful turning, so few and such morning songs, before the children, green and golden, follow him out of grace. Nothing I cared in the lamb-white days that time would take me up to the swallow-thronged loft by the shade of my hand, in the moon that is always riding, nor that riding to sleep I should hear him fly with the high fields, and wake to the farm forever fled from the childless land. Oh, as I was young and easy in the mercy of his means, time held me green and dying, though I sang in my chains like the sea. Okay, this is a poem by Dylan Thomas. Dylan Thomas was born in Swansea in Wales. He's one of the most famous poets of the 20th century. He's very definitely writes modernist poetry, but he still clearly has links to the romantic poems of Wordsworth and John Keats. In a way, this poem is a modernist version of something that maybe Wordsworth would write, and it's full of different metaphors, and it's got this. It gives you this feeling. It's a blend of romanticism and modern problems. So anyway, Fern Hill. Fern Hill was a farm which was owned by his aunt, Fern Hill. And this poem is about his childhood there and his happy memories of being there, and he's looking back at his life, and he's looking back at how happy he was in that place, and it's showing how he was connected to nature. And this poem, it's describing childhood, the wonder and innocence of childhood, but with nostalgia, and it takes us to that place, and it shows us all of the beauty of nature, and it also talks about what it's like to be a child, but it holds the fascination of being a child and how time moves forward. And I think it's also, there is a feeling of nostalgia, of loss of a time when things were simpler, and that time is always moving on. Now, as I was young and easy under the apple boughs, about the lilting house and happy as the green grass. So he was young, and he was playing under the boughs of the apple tree, about this lilting house, about this strange house, and he was happy as the grass was green. So here, green grass, green, he's young, green, he's inexperienced, and everything here is green. The nature is green, the buildings are green, there is green everywhere. The night above the dingle starry. So there was starry skies above the valley, the dingle. The dingle is a valley, and time let me hail and climb, golden in the heydays of his eyes. So this is a time when he would shout out, he would climb up and down. These were the golden heydays. This is the wonderful days of his youth, and these are the best days of his life. And he was honoured among wagons. I was prince of the apple towns. So he's respected by the wagons. He's always in the wagons, and he was well known among all of the local towns full of these apple orchards. And once below a time I lordly had the trees and leaves trail with daisies and barley down the rivers of windfall light. And I was a king, I was in charge, and I made the apple trees make a road of daisies and barley and windfall apples, and this was like a river of light. The area underneath the trees full of daisies and barley grass and windfall apples that have fallen by the wind. And as I was green and carefree, so notice, I was green, I was young, I was inexperienced, I had no cares, famous among the barns about the happy yard, and singing as the farm was home. So he's running about, he's joyful. everybody knew him. This is where he felt at home, and he sang everywhere. He's singing because this farm, it feels like home. In the sun that is young only once, time let me play and be, golden in the mercy of his means. So he's playing in the sun, but the sun is only young once. He's playing in his youth. He's young and he plays like a child, and time is letting him play, and everything is golden and beautiful, and everything feels wonderful, because time is allowing this. Time is this is the time to grow. This is where time is feeding him, is nourishing him. And green and golden I was huntsman and herdsman. The calves sang to my horn, the foxes on the hill barked clear and cold. So everything was green and gold. Everything was green, was young and inexperienced, and gold, it was beautiful. And I pretended to be the huntsman. I was the herdsman, the shepherd. And when I blew my horn, when I sang, the calves, the baby cows, answered me. And the foxes, they barked on the hills. And you could hear the foxes barking. And the Sabbath rang, the holy day rang. So the bells of the holy day rang, but they seemed to come from the little stones in the rivers. So the stones in the river, the noise of the stones in the river, this is like the bells ringing on a holy day. And all the sun long it was running. It was lovely. The hay fields high as the house, the tunes from the chimney. It was air, and playing lovely and watery, and fire green as grass. And so and all day long it was sunny, and I would run here and there, and it was beautiful. And the hay was as high as the house, their haystacks as high as the house. And smoke was coming out of the chimneys. And the air was beautiful. And there was fire. There was fire as green as grass. So the green of everything everything was burning green. And nightly under the simple stars, as I rode to sleep, the owls were bearing the farm away. So every night the owls started to carry the farm away with them when they took flight, and the whole farm went away with them, and that's how I rode to sleep. And all night long, all the moon long, I heard, blessed among the stables, the nightjars, flying with the ricks and the horses flashing into the dark. And so all night long I could hear the nightjars. This is a type of bird. Near the horses and the stables, and the haystacks, they're flying with the haystacks and the horses, and they flash into the dark. The nightjars, they disappear into the dark. And then to awake, and the farm like a wanderer white with the dew come back, the cock on his shoulder. And then after night I would wake up, and the farm would come back like a person who has been wandering. And the farm, everything is covered with dew, it's covered with the water of the morning. And the cock, cock-a-doodle-doo, is standing on the farm's shoulder, and it's singing the morning. It was all shining. It was Adam and the maiden. So everything was shining. This was Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. And this is what it was like for him. It was like being in the Garden of Eden. The sky gathered again, and the sun grew round that very day. So the sun rose, the sky came back, and the sun became round. So it must have been after the birth of the simple light. So he's imagining this is as it was when God created the world, when God created light. Let there be light, and there was light. And this is how he sees the morning, as God saying, let there be light, and it was day. And it must have been like that immediately after the world was born, in the first spinning place. So this is the creation. The spellbound horses walking warm out of the whinnying green stable onto the fields of praise. And the horses, the first horses, are amazed at what's happened, and they come whinny out of the stable, and everything is praising God. The fields are praising God for the creation. And honoured among foxes and pheasants. So I was famous. I was an honoured guest for the foxes and for the pheasants by the gay house, by this happy house, under the new made clouds, and happy as the heart was long. So he was happy in this new world, in this new formed world, with these new clouds, in the sun born over and over. So each new day, it was like he was being born again. I ran my heedless way, so I ran here and there, doing whatever I wanted. My wishes race through the house-high hay. My wishes are passing all through the haystacks, and nothing I cared at my sky-blue trades that time allows in all his tuneful turning, so few and such morning song. So he didn't care about anything. He's without cares, and he's running through this, and he's making all of this beautiful music before the children green and golden follow him out of grace. So, but soon the children, they will lose their time of innocence. That childhood only lasts for a short time, and I am like that child. I have come out of grace. So I was there singing all of these songs, running about. I was free of care, but that's something that doesn't last. And this is something that was going, and I am no longer that person. Nothing I cared in the lamb-white days. So, but I didn't care about the problems of adults in those days when I was innocent as a lamb. That time would take me up to the swallow-thronged loft by the shadow of my hand. And I didn't realise that time would take me up to the loft, which is full of swallows, and I would be guided by the shadow of my hand. So I didn't realise that that these days were temporary, that I would go up into this swallow-thronged loft in the moon that is always rising, and in the light of this moon that just keeps going up and up and up, all in the light of the moon. nor that riding to sleep I should hear him fly with the high fields. And I didn't care that if I went to sleep I would hear time flying over the fields, and wake to the farm forever fled from the childless land. And I would wake up and the farm would be gone, and there would be, that childhood had gone. So I went to sleep and I didn't care. I didn't realise that time would take me on, and that my youth would disappear. I didn't realise that this was just something temporary. Oh, as I was young and easy in the mercy of his means, time held me green and dying, though I sang in my chains like the sea. So I was young and happy in this childhood, and time held me, and I was still young, but I was already dying. That my youth was already dying. And the fact that there is this cycle of life, and if you are young, then time you come up, you have this youth, then you come to responsibility, and then things go down. So, but the fact of being young and having my youth, I was already dying. My life was going. I was already locked in chains. I was already chained by the inevitable passage of time. Even though I was singing like the sea sings, I was singing the song of life. And this poem, it's about the happiness of childhood. It's a celebration of childhood. It's about the innocence, about running about under the apple boughs, about imagining all sorts of things, imagining the cows and the foxes, imagining being a herdsman, and he's racing through the whole farm and singing, and everything's wonderful, but he doesn't have any cares, any worries. He just enjoys the splendour of nature. He enjoys the splendour of the world and the harmony and the beauty of nature. But he doesn't realise that that this is only a limited period of time. This is something limited that cannot last forever. And he is at one with nature. But this nature will eventually bring him to where he is now. And this is something that will go on. So time is changing. But here he's green and carefree. He's young, he's inexperienced. He doesn't have a care in the world. He's just excited to be alive. But he understands that this is something that will change. Yeah, and time is powerful. Time is like a god, that this will not last forever, and everything comes to an end, and time is this unstoppable force that controls us all. And yes, everybody knows that they're going to grow up, but after this will be the end of childhood, the end of this time of innocence, that it will soon be time for him to grow up, that being in the Garden of Eden is not something that lasts forever, and the fall of childhood, the fall of man, is something that will come and something that will be inevitable. So, Fern by Dylan Thomas.